All right, guys, it's Digital Day 26. We're going to start a brand new unit on real numbers. And today's lesson is going to be very quick, just a few minutes, because we're just going to be talking about square roots and cube roots. So a perfect square and a perfect cube is what we're going to focus on for today. Now, before we get started, you do need to make sure that you have a calculator with you. Now, I do happen to have the TI-30XS with me, since that is the calculator that you are expected to be able to use. With this, I want to make sure that I show you exactly how to use the square root and cube root functions and the squares and cubes and different exponent functions as well on here, because this is the calculator that's going to be on your test and on your exam when we put it on SchoolNet in case you don't have a handheld. Now, if you do not have a calculator at home, you do not have the TI-30XS, you are able to Google. There are a couple of calculators that do have the root functions available for you to use, so you are able to Google that if needed. But just make sure that you do have a calculator. You could also use your head. Some of you are going to be quick enough to be able to do it by your head. So either way is perfectly fine. But first thing that I want to talk to you about is what a root is. So when we talk about a root, the best thing I can do is just give you an example. If I say the square root of 25, so the square root of 25 is considered to be a perfect square, because what we're trying to do is you're trying to figure out what value, what number times itself is going to equal 25. That's what you're trying to figure out. What value, when you multiply it by itself, will equal 25? So in this case, that's going to be 5. So the square root of 25, is equal to 5, because 5 times 5 equals 25. Okay, so that's the idea of a square root. When you take a square root of a number, you're breaking it down to the value that when you multiply it by itself will equal what's called a radical, which is inside of the root symbol. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of examples. If I say the square root of 121, so I'm trying to figure out what times itself is going to equal 121. So in this case, 11. The square root of 121 is equal to 11, because 11 times 11 equals 121. Okay, if I give you a few problems to try on your own for square roots. So let's say the square root of 36. We've got the square root of 225, the square root of 100, and the square root of 49. Okay, all of these are considered to be perfect squares. Now, if you cannot figure it out in your head, then there is a nice, wonderful option right here on your calculator. So you do have a root button, which is right here. I'll zoom in. It's in green, right above this x squared button. So if you see the x squared button, right above it in the green is a square root button. So that means what you have to do is you have to hit the second, and then you're going to hit the square root sign, and it'll pop up square root and it'll have a box inside. Okay, so I can easily type in, so for problem number 2, I want the square root of 36. I could type in 36 and then hit enter, and it gives me 6 as my answer, because 6 times 6 does equal 36. So I want to write that down just so you guys know. 6 times 6 is equal to 36, so therefore my answer is 6. Let's go ahead and try this again. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can just see exactly what I'm typing in. Okay, I want the square root of 225, so I need to hit the second button. Then I'm going to hit the x squared so that I get that square root button. You'll see the square root sign and a little box inside flashing. And you're just going to type in 225, hit enter, and then there's your answer, 15. So we know that the square root of 225 is equal to 15 because 15 times 15 is equal to 225. Okay, square root of 100. Hit the second button, hit your square root symbol, type in 100, and you'll get 10. 10, because 10 times 10 is equal to 100. Okay, we'll do the last one. You should be able to do that in your head though, but just in case, in here I'm going to hit clear and on so I can clear all this out. Second, square root symbol, 49, enter, and you'll get 7 as your answer. And that is because 7 times 7 equals 49. Okay, so that's the idea of these perfect squares. Perfect squares. Okay, now we also have cube roots, which is the same idea. So this up here, this was square roots. Now we're going to talk about cube roots real quick. So for cubed roots, same kind of idea, has that square root symbol, but instead of just the square root, you've got a little 3 in the corner, in that little nook there. So if I were to say the cubed root of 125, so the cubed root of 125, this means what times itself again is going to equal 125. So I want to know what number, when I multiply it by itself and then multiply it by itself a third time, is going to equal 125. So in this case, the cubed root of 125 is equal to 5 because 5 times 5 times 5 is equal to 125. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing now. So I want to know what is the cubed root of 512. And we'll go with the cubed root of 1000 and the cubed root of 343. And we'll do one more. Let's do the cubed root of 64. Okay, now cubed roots, that might be a little bit more difficult. Yeah, you probably will want to go ahead and have your calculator with you. And it's not that difficult to do. So just like you had the button for the square root, you also have a button for your cubed root. It is also going to be one of those second buttons. So if you look right here, this is where our square root sign is. Right above it is where a cubed root or any other kind of root can be. So what you need to do with these, you're going to type in the 3, then the second, and then hit that button. And notice the 3 now becomes a little corner piece. Okay, it's no longer a value that's in front, it's now in front but as a corner. So you have to hit that 3 first in order for you to be able to make it become a cubed root. So once you've done that, so let me show you again. I'm going to hit clear and on. Okay, I'm going to type in the 3. I'm going to hit second. And I'm not going to hit the square root button. I'm going to hit the button that says X square root. By doing so, it turns that 3 into a cubed root. And then I type in the number, so 512, and I'm going to get 8. That means 8 times 8 times 8. So if I type it, 8 times 8 times 8, that equals 512. So the cubed root of 512 is equal to 8 because 8 times 8 times 8 is equal to 512. Okay, let's try another one. We're going to hit 3, hit the second button, and hit the cube root, or the x and square root button. So now it makes it a cube root, 1000. That should give you a 10. Because, again, if I wanted to show you 10 times 10 times 10 is equal to 1000. So then all we have to do is say, hey, the cubed root of 1000 is equal to 10. Because 10 times 10 times 10 is equal to 1000. Okay, let's do the cubed root of 343. You'll get 7. Let me show you. Hit the 3. Second, hit the x square root, so you get the 3 in the corner. 343 and hit enter, you get 7. Because 7 times 7 times 7 is going to be equal to 343. Okay, and then our last value, the 64. Hit the 3, don't forget to hit that 3 first, then hit second, then hit the x square root button and type in 64 and you're going to get 4. Because 4 times 4 times 4 equals 64. And that's it. That's it for our square roots and our cubed roots. Now you're going to have a quizzes and an IXL that you need to complete on squares and cubed roots.